Good on you. Good work. Are you a hugger?
No, sometimes.
Well,
People
thank you. I'm here with one of the most recognizable faces and one of the most recognizable leaders in the homelessness space. So she advocates for people who are homeless and people who are at risk of homelessness. So I'm really excited for her to introduce herself to you now.
Hey, Cody. It's Tanya here. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for sitting down with me because I have been wanting to pick your brain about homelessness for quite a while because I first met you actually while you were doing a drive for sleeping bags.
Yep, I can remember that at Aussie Disposals.
Yes.
We were doing a drive to get warm sleeping bags, -5 because it was winter, it was cold. We were selling record amounts of tents and it took me a little while to work out why were we selling all these tents, and then it kind of dawned on me that people were sleeping in them because we'd had a crisis. There just didn't seem to be enough rentals for whatever reason. So it kind of made me think that if people are buying tents and are homeless, why is that? Like, who's helping them and how can we help them? So we came up with, a sleeping bag drive, and we encouraged members of the community to either drop in a sleeping bag as long as it was, -5 rating, and then we'd pass it on, and we passed them on to AC Care.
Wow. And so at that point when you started to do something about it, really, did you get any help from any other people or any other agencies, or did you work with anybody to get this done?
Not really. I think we just sort of thought as members of the community, there's things that we can do that just help people. AC Care and all the agencies struggle in winter because the demand suddenly increases for warm stuff. And I guess you sort of think, wow, there's people that need it. So, if we can all give a little bit and maybe buy a sleeping bag, or with friends, buy 4 of you, put $20 each and buy a sleeping bag, it helps keep people warm. And it just, the thought of people having nothing warm, it's bad enough not having a roof over your head for whatever reasons, but to be cold, to be laying out cold, that kind of doesn't sit well with me. I can't imagine anyone having to go cold.
So it's very impressive to me that you as an ordinary person could take the initiative to have an impact to help people, right? And you were taking the sleeping bags to AC Care for them to distribute, is that right?
Yeah, AC Care, they do good work. AC Care, they have all sorts of help out there for the community, and that's another thing that's really important that I did or still do, is you can always let people know that there's help out there. There's food bank, which is amazing. There's places to have showers. There are options out there, and even though the thought of people being homeless, it's terrible. I kind of think to myself, isn't it better that even though they're homeless, at least they've got warmth, they've got food? As terrible as it is, at least we can try and take care of them in the best way we possibly can. But in an ideal world, the whole idea of more public housing being built, and when quick public housing, we could be doing smaller homes that are temporary, that can be moved around. But where does the money come from?
You mentioned food bank.
Yep.
So what's your understanding with how people can access food bank?
So it would be through your regular agencies like AC Care, Lifeline, Salvation Army. There's lots of little places out there. You sort of visit them and they'll refer you on to food bank. And that's a wonderful place. I think anyone that wants to do any kind of donation, tins of soup, donate to food bank. That stays local and it helps local people.
So it does stay local. So the donation bins that people might see, they don't get packed up and taken away or sent overseas, they stay right here.
That's the great thing about Food Bank. It stays local, and I'm sure there's lots of businesses that donate regularly to that, and that's amazing too. But like I said, every community member can always help. You can always donate a tin of soup, a tin of baked beans.
Could you explain what maybe a typical process looks like for somebody who is either homeless or who is at risk of homelessness? How can somebody go from having a home to being at risk or being homeless?
Okay, so imagine if you are a single person living by yourself, you have a really great job in a timber mill, you're paying off a mortgage, and then on the weekend, perhaps you have an accident and suddenly you're in hospital for 6 months. Who pays your bills? So suddenly you come out of hospital in 6 months' time. Do you still have a home? Do you still have anything? Because that's where homelessness can begin. It's not, there's a fair look, let's be honest, there are people that are homeless because that's their choice, and that is their choice, right? So when we talk about boxes, this is why we can't have boxes with homelessness, because there is no box.
There is a proportion of homeless people who prefer that.
Yeah, and that's their decision.
And that's why it's not easy for people who want to impose their will onto everybody else and say, well, it's not right that we have people that are homeless.
Yeah.
Of course, it's not right that people are forced into homelessness, but there are people who, for whatever reason, choose to do that.
And for whatever reasons. And look, not every homeless person is a drug addict. Not every homeless person is an alcoholic. It's, like I said, all sorts of issues, and it's not just people tend to put people into a box by saying you're homeless or you must be a drug addict, or oh my god, you're an alcoholic. It happens so quickly and so easily to people that, like I said, what do? The first thing you do is get help. But where do you get help? So I guess if there's people that need help, I always say go see Lifeline, AC Care, go see someone. Don't think that you shouldn't be accepting help if you need it, because you should.
Because they deserve help.
Absolutely.
If they're struggling, we all should want to see each other be able to get ahead.
Yeah.
Are you surprised at some of the people that have reached out to you? Maybe they seem to have come from a position of high status or a good paying job, or they are a well-respected person, but now they're in an incredibly vulnerable situation facing homelessness?
Yeah, well,
I mean, because it doesn't discriminate.
It's easy to happen. That's what I keep saying. There's so many reasons. Okay, imagine you've been renting for the last 10 years in a rental, right? You're aged. You've been renting this unit for a long time, private rental, and then suddenly the landlord decides that they're going to sell that unit, right? Housing's hard to get. Who looks after them? Who helps them? So I know of a lady that happened to.
And so all of a sudden your world can just be ripped out from underneath you.
And all we were worried about is what happens if she can't find anything? What happens if she doesn't find somewhere to go? What happens to her? She doesn't have a car. She's old, not old, but elderly. What happens? Where does she go?
So how are some of the other ways that homelessness or at risk of homelessness can present itself? Because we don't often, if we don't see the issue, we might not believe that it exists.
Okay, so good point. Not everybody homelessness isn't just someone that's sleeping out in rough areas, like sleeping rough, like say in parklands, in doorways or whatever. So there's also people that have to go back and live with their parents. So their parents might live in a 2-bedroom unit, and there's mum, dad, and 3 kids, right? So they all fit into that unit, and that's what I say. these people are homeless. They're lucky to have somebody where they can stay temporarily, but is it a good solution having, 3 kids, mum, dad, and, gran and grandpa living in a 2-bedroom unit? No.
So then you can kind of have people bouncing between different residences as well.
You have probably older teenagers, that are not at home and they'll stay at, one mate's house for 2 weeks, then they'll move on to some other mate's house for another 2 weeks. It happens. It's not just, like I said, it's just not people sleeping rough under trees or, in tents. There's all sorts of homelessness, and I'm not sure that there's a solution other than trying to help them the best we can and trying to direct them to the help that they need. But how do we fix it? Like, the biggest challenge, I think, and like I said, there were so many questions I would have asked at that forum last night of, while we had all the ministers here, there were so many questions I wanted to ask, but didn't get the opportunity. But where does the money come from? How do we help? How do we house people when there's not enough houses around?
And this is something that I see so clearly. I see whether it's the government or the council, they have a stack of cash that they've collected through rates, taxes, through however other ways they get their money. And every time somebody wants something, the stack of cash gets thinner and thinner. Yeah. And there's no more cash underneath the cash pile. There's no more cash around the cash pile. This is just what you have.
Yep.
And for every thing that might be good and worthwhile, it takes away from the stack of cash.
Yeah.
And I see the waste that governments and councils spend their money on. And it's hard to have respect for people in those positions because you see what they're taking that money away from. The services that people could actually rely on to maybe get a helping hand, get their life back on track, get ahead, and you see it being rubbed in your face, the wasteful spending.
I guess what I'm saying too is that how do we convince the government of the day that we need more money? How do we convince them? How do we say, hey, we need another $5 million injected into the southeast so we can build housing, so we can help people, so we can provide the infrastructure that's needed, because there isn't any. How do we build housing so quickly? And also too, with people that are at risk of being homeless, if there's mental health issues and they've got no support when they get out, that's where it's really hard. We need so much more here, so much more, but where's the money?
It seems like they've managed to find money for all sorts of other programs that don't add value to people's lives or that aren't adding tangible benefits to the community. But for the essentials, it seems that they're always short on money.
Yeah.
Well, they're always short on money. They can't find it for the essentials, but for the ambitious projects, there's always more money that they can find under the pillow.
Absolutely. So even, could you imagine, okay, so you've got a family with a couple of kids and they've been sick and you've been to the doctors 3 times, and then suddenly one of your kids is diagnosed with a medical condition. It's so tough because there's no services. We're paying money continuously. Taxes is one. Gas, right? We should be taxing our gas. That's just it. We should be helping. There's money that
can be raised that doesn't come out of your pocket. They're always looking at you and ready to come for you.
Yeah. So when we talk about when there's a bushfire, the community can come together and they can raise millions of dollars, right? Millions of dollars. We can just get it together as Australian people. We can all stand together and we can raise $2 million for bushfire funds. So if people can give a little bit, why can't the government go, okay, let's just look at this clearly. If we cut down on this, so do we need to really spend $20 million on sports, or could we maybe spend $20 million on regional health?
Exactly. I would love to see these ambitious projects come out and be funded by either user pays. So if you'd like to use it, you can chip in, or by private donations. And see if the community really has an appetite for these ambitious plans then, and see how much money you can get out of the ratepayers and the taxpayers. You would have no argument from any person with a sensible head if you were choosing to focus on improving the quality of services that are delivered locally and that improve people's quality of life.
Let's face it, it's really tough out there. And like I said, when we talk about services, this is why I say it's so important that we need to get more services here, because AC Care, they work so incredibly hard, but without the funding, they're bound. What can they do? And that's where it's so incredibly hard, because you just wonder, instead of spending... All right, so why can big multi-corporations donate millions of dollars to a political party, but they can't donate millions of dollars to towns?
That's right. And why do the political parties choose to accept those donations instead of choosing to defer it to an organisation?
So I look at it and I think that if things don't change, we'll see it more and more again, and it's getting cold. And this is where you sort of think, do you want to see anyone out living rough when it's cold? Because you don't. You want to... But like I said, how do we fix it? Where do we get the money? I wish I knew. I wish I had the answers.
Mount Gambier is lucky that people like you have stepped up in the past and continue to do so, because you are filling a gap. And this is no criticism for the services that are already overstretched and doing the best that they can do. But we're trying to raise awareness for them as well, so that they can get the help and support from governments and businesses.
Like I said, the agencies, they would be facing, just every day, they would be facing people that are just, they're desolate, they're lost, they've got no home. And that would be challenging for them as well, when they've just got nothing or nowhere for them. Where do they go? I know that we'll be having code blue, because it's starting to get really cold now, and once a code blue, that means that everyone that's sleeping rough needs to be housed, so they can call and there'll be somewhere found them temporarily. Might be a motel accommodation for a few nights, but I always say, when it's a code blue, if someone's sleeping rough or just, then seek help, because they will be put up for a couple of nights. But then I think of it, if we can come up with that much money so quickly, why can't we come up with it a little bit differently and build, like I said,
a long-term solution?
Yeah. And I don't know, a long-term solution would be, like I said, but again, there's all the red tape, and that's probably one of the biggest challenges, is red tape. Imagine if you could find a space somewhere that you could put, I don't know, 8 little tiny mobile home, tiny homes on, that they have their own, toilet, they have their own bathroom, they're tiny. But imagine if you could have something like that could be used temporarily. People can live up to them for 6 months, 12 months, whatever it takes.
And hearing that idea, it makes me feel like it would give them some dignity and some privacy and some self-respect, and they then might be able to maybe clean themselves up and get presented for a job interview, and maybe get themselves...
Imagine, if you've got nowhere safe or stable, or you don't know when you're going to have your next shower. Imagine having to go to work every day knowing that you're going... What are you going home to? You don't have a home. You're going home to sleep in your car somewhere. And that's really, really, really confronting when you think about it like that.
It is really confronting.
So imagine if there was tiny homes where it could just temporarily put people just until they can find somewhere. It's so much better than sleeping in their car. But once again, we're talking about funding, money.
In your experience, outside of the people who choose to be homeless, for the people who are homeless for other reasons, is it a long-term position that they're in, or are they able to get out of homelessness? Like, how long do you think people stay homeless for if it isn't a choice?
So I guess it depends on what sort of support that you've had. So when we talk about hidden homelessness, so somebody, like I said, explained in a 2-bedroom unit, they're living with their mum and dad, Nana and Pop, and the 3 kids. Like they could stay there as long as they liked, but how that's not it's not good. It's not good for anybody to have that many people into a house. So they could, the hidden homeless, I suppose, have it a little bit luckier because they have got a roof over their head. But imagine everybody needs their own space. So, you know, and I guess that's where you start applying for every rental, every unit, everything that you can. But the rental market's so competitive out there. It's so competitive. You've got, and I guess this has been probably the last 8 years maybe that I've really noticed that where's all the housing gone? Like, where's it gone? Like, we're getting houses built at like there's houses being developed everywhere. So where's all the housing? Why is it so hard to get a house?
Wow, that's a good point.
Does that make sense? So if you're building a home, who's buying your house? Somebody's buying that house.
And there's probably an answer to that, which we could talk about at a different time.
Yeah. So
I didn't realize how quickly it would get dark out
it
here.
gets dark
And
very quick.
I think I haven't been able to check the camera, but we're probably washed out by this light behind the camera. We could probably meet again and talk at a more convenient time, apart from dusk or sundown. But I just wanted to say thank you again, because you and I probably knew about you longer than you knew about me.
I was just going to say.
Because I've known about you for years.
Yep.
And then we've started to see each other around and saw each other last night. But this has been planned for a little while.
Yep.
It is very exciting for me to have you on. Thanks for sitting with me.
Oh, thank you. I like I said, when you mentioned that you'd been into Aussie Disposals, and I was talking to one of your colleagues about the sleeping bag drive, that's kind of really cool.
I don't forget. I
was going to say, I can't even remember the cop.
Yeah.
I remember who it is though. Like I know. But
it's funny, the moments that happen in your life that aren't significant, but they might be significant to somebody else.
Isn't that amazing what it can do? And like I said, I just think that we've got a great place here. We've got a fantastic community. We really have. And we just need to take care of each other.
Good on you. Good work. Are you a hugger?
No. Sometimes.
Well,
people would probably would probably say yes, I'm a hugger, because I probably am. I don't know.
But I just got shafted on camera, so we'll keep that in.
Sorry, no. But like I said, it's just homelessness is.
We have to keep talking about it, because the people who are currently making the decisions are not talking about it enough, and they're not doing enough.
And I guess, good work. Like I said, we just need, where's the money coming from? But
we can see where it's going. But
finding it's not quite so well. Parting with it to what they should be parting with, I guess, is a little bit more challenging.
Well, we'll keep doing our best.
Yeah, and like I said, I always just sort of think we've got some amazing people in this community that are probably behind the scenes like me, that people don't even really notice, but people just do incredible.
They're doing good work every day.
Absolutely do. There's some really good people out there.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you.
See ya.
See you later. I'm funny with hugs.